Hello, I'm Mark Baer. You're watching the YourTown television program. My guest, Laura Niedringhaus from Beacon House, Addiction Recovery. And we did the first segment, but now we want to go kind of deeper into what's going on in our community. So welcome back.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
One segment wasn't enough.
No.
So let's, one of the things that we spoke about just while we were changing the cameras is now that weed is legal, what don't we know about this? Because there's things that we don't know. And you're telling me about there's synthetics in it. And,
There's a lot of components, there's a lot of synthetics that we're finding, our clinicians are finding that it's taking twice as long for the brain to regulate itself. So what used to take 6 months to get stable, especially with the young adults, is now taking a year because you don't know what is going into the marijuana. And that's becoming a really big problem.
And so I'd never even heard of this.
Yeah.
And so what would they be putting in it and why?
Just a lot of different chemicals and that are altering the brain in ways that we don't even fully understand. And so what a lot of people also don't understand is that the painkillers, they're being overprescribed by a lot of doctors that are being irresponsible when they are not realizing that some of the people who are in addiction mode are drug seeking and they know the symptoms of what to present for a certain type of medication. And after a while, that medication, the painkillers, they actually start creating pain and causing pain when you are overindulging in them and when you are hooked on them. And so that's another key thing that people don't realize.
Let's step back a moment and let's do this orderly. So with the pot, which would tell people, know who your grower is or grow yourself.
Basically, yes. Understand where it's coming from.
Yes.
And there's a lot of things being sold at over the counter as well. And there's a danger of this even if you're buying it from a legalized place. Yes. Yeah. And I'm not saying any specific place. I just know that it's a lot different than how it used to be. It used to be a lot more natural. And so now there's a lot more synthetics that are involved. A lot of different chemicals that are altering the high, they're altering our brain.
So know where your pot is coming from. Okay, now we'll step into opium addiction.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, it's been overprescribed. It usually starts to be a legal pain situation.
Correct.
And then people go beyond. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, some of the problem is that we're not all on the same page with really, let's say, the psychiatrists and psychologists, or I should say the medical community. There are many people who understand how what to look for and really understand the addiction and know if someone is drug seeking. But when someone is given 100 Percocets after a very minor operation, if they continue taking more than the prescribed, they're going to continue to possibly have symptoms that are presenting that they are in pain. And what they don't understand is when they continue to do this, it does cause pain. So it's this cycle, not to mention if you are also having, let's say, 1 or 2 even glasses of wine, or you're adding alcohol to the mix. And this is where it can start snowballing and you're not even aware of the problem happening, and then a year later you're still on the same cocktail mix. And so a lot of times people can be surprised when this happens to them because they never think it's going to happen to them. But it's something that it's understanding the enormity of our situation with our community being overprescribed medication, that there's another way of handling, and whether that's anxiety or insomnia, many times it starts the cycle, and it can start out where the intention is to help them, but then when people are looking for quick fixes, or they don't understand that what they're adding to their brain and how it's changing, and it's it's happening a lot.
So the face of, let me say two things. The face of addiction is changing. Second, our ability to delude ourselves and say it's not me, it's them, you know, who we think is the addict, and
Yes.
how we identify ourselves. And because we've had such a sense of vivid picture of who that other is, that we fail to recognize it within.
Correct.
And we are faced with, you know, a new. How we hear on the news every day, the opium epidemic. It's real. And how do you speak to that? I mean, how does it affect a community?
It's affected our younger generation greatly, because I think that we don't understand what our limits are, and so that's where, when we take a few, let's say, prescribed medication, we take some, and then we might have even more pain one day or more anxiety. We're looking to feel better. So this our society is a quick fix of wanting to feel better quickly, and so we are oversaturating ourselves with things that we might not feel, that we might not realize until later how it's affecting our decision making. It's affecting our quality of life, and if we're looking to continue the party for longer than it should, then we start getting caught up in a cycle that we might not understand. All of that is really the cocktail of different things that we're adding to our life. And I think that's where people don't understand too, that you can be functioning alcoholic or addict, and we just picture it, an alcoholic as someone who's homeless or on Skid Row, or someone who is acting out. And the other subtle signs can be really car accidents, 502s, DUIs. Do you drink when you're stressed? Do you have let's say, different stashes at home or at work, or something, a go-to, if that's your go-to to feel better? It could be marijuana, it could be alcohol, it could be something that you're, I think, not educated enough to, educated on addiction enough to understand how it's a chronic disease and it does not discriminate. You can be a successful CEO, but your life could be falling apart. And when I say that, it could be no relationships with family members, perhaps, or really unaware of seeing how your life is starting to unravel in ways. And so what people typically do, and this is part of the disease, is keep everything a secret until you can't hold it together anymore, and the secret is out. And that shows up when they typically seek help. But there's a lot of still shame involved, and that's where really understanding perhaps the generational, if it's something that might have gone on in family members for years and no one really talked about it. And the same thing with mental illness, and they usually go hand in hand, where people are medicating themselves for reasons, and when you have a little bit more information, you can get the help that you need. And it's typically just making that one phone call and understanding what you're dealing with. So
on the Beacon House website, there's a list of questions, and I think you have that questionnaire with you. Let's just go through a few of these.
Okay. Let's see. When you're under pressure, do you drink or do drugs? Has drinking or drugs made you impulsive or less rational? Have you lost time from work or by using prescription drugs or alcohol? Are you harder to get along with after drinking? If alcohol is not available at a social event, are you uncomfortable? Do you prefer to drink alone so that you can drink more? Have you lost a job because of drug use or drinking? Does alcohol or drugs help you feel more confident? Has alcohol or drugs stopped being fun? And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't ask themselves. Is
that's the key.
When did the party had stopped a long time before, and you just are on this wild ride of looking for ways to feel better. And underneath you're really in pain.
Party pros don't let this happen.
Yeah, exactly. Party pros want to handle the party and want to handle all the party favors as long as possible. But what happens is that the whole process of letting go and realizing that you need help, I think that's one of the key components, is that we really have a hard time asking for help. It takes humility, and it can bring you to your knees. But that's where transformation begins.
Let's talk about something a little more insidious. Methamphetamine is still in our community. Again,
Yes.
if you don't know,
Yeah.
it exists in our community, and it's
Yeah.
not. And you were telling me it's coming back.
It is. We're seeing a lot more of that, and it's been coming back for a while. Heroin as well has been on the rise for years, and so that is something that it really alters the brain. And so when you suspect someone, a loved one or a family member, who is using meth, that is something that it's very scary, and I think that's where you have a lot of delusional behavior that doesn't make sense. And so I always recommend just confronting the person, but also knowing that it's something that is highly addictive. Meth is highly addictive, and so
There's very few happy endings on meth.
there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't end well at all, and we read about it, unfortunately, a lot in the headliners of most media outlets and papers, and so about discovering that someone has been under the influence. But meth is very dangerous.
Yeah, I think from opium addiction, once it's fixed, you can have some normality. But this is something that really alters you.
It does.
Not that saying one is better than the other, but this is really insidious.
It is. It is. It completely changes the person. And one thing that you just mentioned that reminded me of what a lot of people don't realize is that once you get stable and have some length of sobriety, it's not recommended to people that they can now drink like a normal person,
Right.
or use like a normal
Right.
person. And so a lot of times people have to find that out the hard way. But what we're saying is that learning to live a life of sobriety is really letting go of finding a substance that can alter how you think and feel, and learning how to do that
So
naturally.
one thing that, again, some people, let's just go to the basic alcohol. Some people can drink, and other people can drink the same amount, but they have genetically disposed to alcoholism. So everybody that doesn't drink isn't necessarily an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Some people are, some people aren't. And I guess knowing which camp you're in is
Very helpful.
is a and it's I mean it's good to sort that out. It's if you're disposed to alcoholism, you shouldn't be drinking.
Well, I think there's responsibility to understand your history, because there
Yes.
is the genetic component, of course. If you have two family members, your mother and father, that are that suffer from this disease, your chances of having it are 100%. If you have one, it's 50%. So really understanding what you're dealing with can help you to have the conversations, either with your loved ones or your children, or just really understanding it. That way you are able to really be a little bit more responsible, or when it happens, just understand that it's not targeted at you. This is just the way you're genetically predisposed. And I think that's also another really critical item to look at, is the younger you start. So if you begin at a young age with dabbling in drugs and alcohol, then it really affects you later on. It's not something that typically people just start recreationally, and then if you're an alcoholic, if you're an addict, then you're going to continue, and it's going to accelerate, and it's going to become more chronic. And so when you look back on your history, when you see that it started at, let's say, a very young age, then that's something that really helps to look at how long this has been going on. It might not just be something that you can stop at any time, and that very few people are able to just sit back and look at their history and have that type of introspection. And that's where having an assessment and really learning about how this has been progressive. People who don't have this don't have the things in their life that are demonstrating that their life is not working. It could be multiple marriages. It could be a lot of a loss of dreams, a loss of really hope in their lives that it leads to not making very good decisions. And so people who are able to drink responsibly, when they typically start feeling the effects of alcohol, then they stop. Someone who doesn't have that ability, it's like, bring it on. When you start feeling the effects of alcohol, that's when the party starts.
Yeah.
And so
that's a good
way
key.
To,
that's
yeah,
interesting.
Exactly.
I want to let's get to some of the events that you've been holding at the Sunset Center before we run out of time here. I want to just talk about some of this great stuff that you guys have been doing.
Yeah, we've been very lucky to have Joe Fletcher be part of our team, and he has brought in some wonderful acts. We have Graham Nash just recently, and Styx and B-52s, and we are having Kansas come up on September.
Skaggs, don't forget Boz.
Skaggs,
don't forget
Dave
the Boz.
Mason,
Yeah.
that's so true.
Yeah,
really good. And we are having Kansas on September 2nd. We have a few other bands coming up also this month and next month. And all the proceeds go to benefit Beacon House. And what that means is that we have a scholarship fund set up for people who can't afford treatment. So what we do is we scholarship them, or if they are stepped down by insurance reasons to outpatient and they need to have residential treatment for longer, we would love to help them and support them. And so the money that goes towards the scholarship funds helps that and helps people who need the help. And so doing these concerts and having people participate and join in, we also have a lot of fun in recovery. And so
this is I guess what you're saying here is, if you've made these events fun, and you've got great people coming in, but what you're saying is that this is a community issue.
Yes.
That we're all responsible. Yes. Beacon House is a nonprofit. And it's a worthy cause. Yeah. People should give. They can go to your website and learn how to give, or become involved.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes people need to be involved, but it's not necessarily a financial donation. There's other ways for people to get involved in what you do.
Absolutely.
And you can find that all out on your website.
Yes, we have a lot of information about that. So the more people that could be part of this, the greater chance that we have of continuing to help more people. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Let's reiterate the website one more time.
It is www.beaconhouse.org. And so we have our 800 number as well that you can call, and that's 800-215-4733 if you would like to talk to a live person about our program. That's the admissions.
I love saying your name. Laura Niedringhaus from Beacon House.
There you go.
Laura Niedringhaus from Beacon House.
Yes.
Not Bleak House.
No Bleak House there. That's a big beacon of light there.
Yeah. And go to their website, and if you recognize any of the things we're talking about, get over the shame. Don't hesitate. Act.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.